It's been a long time since we've been here. And this is like a old home week here. And we arranged snow for you. We thought that would be nice. Creative Life actually arranged the snow. And we want to thank them for it.
Welcome home, Doctor.
Yes, thank you for the snow, sweetheart.
Welcome home.
She said she had a surprise for us. And Sedona, you can do things like that. Elsewhere in the world, you're stuck with the weather. Here we just create it, whatever suits us. What happened to the music anyway? The magic music. Hi.
Good to see you.
Well, and to celebrate today, we heard from a publisher in Russia. We're going to be in Russian now. So we're in Russian, we're in Slovakian, we're in Slovenian, we're in
French, German,
all different languages, so that's sort of nice.
Japanese.
And I brought my ego with me.
Yes, this morning, Dr. Hawkins with his ego. Very fuzzy. Good morning. The pilgrims were beautiful today. I was watching you out there. Give yourselves a hand. You look so great. It was beautiful to watch you all trudge through the snow, and indeed we are a lucky bunch, huh? And I have been told to tell you that don't bring anything in this room except water. Okay, bottled water. And
Uh-oh.
Graham has its privileges. So, on this beautiful morning, I'd like you to welcome our teacher, Dr. Hawkins, and his right arm, Susan.
Where's the music person? Okay. I just wanted to see if it was working. Well, let's see. I forgot about what today's lecture is about. Does anybody know? Eliminating thought. I don't have any thoughts about the lecture today. So we'll have to wing it. Well, since we last were here, we've been all around the country and talked here and there. And we've discovered that it's better to start the lecture from the end and work back to the front. So we'll start with the end. That way you don't have to listen to the rest. So, today has to do with, I believe, transcending thought. Isn't that what it's about? It has to do with a condition that is already in existence, and how to just become aware that it's already there and that you don't have to do anything about it. You can save many lifetimes by just getting a simple understanding of how things come about in the world, you see. And it'll save you all kinds of worry. Because a group like this, which calibrates quite high, the obstruction to enlightenment is really the intellect. For 85% of the population on the planet today, the problem is really to cross over 200 to become oriented and to value integrity, truth, and honesty. And in America now, 51% of the people calibrate over 200, and 49% are trudging along. And we hope to inspire them to move faster. So in a group like this, which has already decided that they'll give up murder and robbery and thievery as a lifestyle, give up receividism and live in the world instead of a prison, the problem is therefore the mind. So you see each level on the scale, I've got a new pointer thing, but I don't know where it is here, someplace. Someplace, it's in my, somewhere anyway. Anyway, we oh, there it is. It's so new, I don't even know I have it. Look at there. Ta-da! Let's see now. The world, the world over time, to understand the ego is to not be at the effect of it. We see that it's a development that occurred over great eons of time, and we have a slide on the eons of time. Over great millennia, then life appeared at consciousness level 1 as bacteria, algae and viruses don't have any consciousness. Don't ask me why. Apparently they don't think about anything at all. It isn't until you get to a bacteria that you start to worry. Bacteria calibrates at 1, and we'll get to that slide later. And then great millennia, on through the animal kingdom, on up through the Komodo dragon, and that's the level of Bin Laden. And yeah, he calibrates the same. Up through the reptiles, and then we get to domestic animals, and finally we get to the capacity over 200, the herbivores. The grass eaters calibrate about 200. And then you get onto the scale of consciousness. So we see that the consciousness of mankind, this is Neanderthal man, about 75 here. Neanderthal man really wasn't man, he was pre-man, because Neanderthal didn't evolve into Homo erectus or Homo sapien. He got off the train there, being smart. He got off, and he disappeared into oblivion and reemerged then later. Off the evolutionary tree is Homo erectus, and Homo erectus, and 600,000 years ago, finally Homo sapiens I delta appeared in Ethiopia at about this consciousness level here, you see? Then it took many, many centuries. At the time of Buddha, the consciousness level of man was 90. At the time of Jesus Christ, the consciousness level of mankind was 100. When you look at the teachings of the ancient masters, you have to realize to whom they were talking, Then, over great millennia of time, it got up to 190. It stayed at 190, below the level of integrity. And then recently, in the late 80s, crossed over. And now, when we were in San Francisco, right during the session, at the end of the session, it went from 205 to 207. That was the time of the last harmonic concordance. We happened to be talking to a large group in San Francisco, and we calibrated the level of consciousness at 515. I think it was supposed to happen from 518 to 530 San Francisco time. And in front of a whole audience, and it's on video, we did the calibrated level of mankind at 5:15, and then we all did Om and other wondrous things and prayed. And by God, at 5:30, the consciousness level jumped from 205 to 207. So we have a new millennia in which we're living. At 207, non-integrity tends to surface. You see, at 190, it's just everybody does business that way. A little few bucks under the table, a little wink here, a little wink there. The old boy network, which, as Wall Street has found out, isn't working out anymore. The old boy network doesn't work anymore. And interestingly enough, along with the old boy network, you see that the women CEOs, the companies run by women CEOs, according to Fortune magazine, were more profitable than the corporations run by men. Considerably more, in fact, like 30% more profitable than the ones run by men. See? All right, so women are making tremendous executives. And I was saying to myself, now why is that? Well, I saw it right away. Because men come from a different culture in which the old boy network, you do me a favor, I do you a favor. You know, many years ago I had somebody offer me an insider, it would get you prosecuted nowadays, whatever they call it. Anyway, he ran the company. So he said, give me 10,000 and I'll give you 100,000 back in a week. I didn't do it, but probably because I didn't have 10,000. No, actually, by that time, integrity, it would create guilt, you know. So anyway, in the old boy network, then, amongst men, certain deviations from absolute purity have been part of the culture. It's not part of the women's culture. Not part of the women's culture. And when women first appeared as CEOs, and the guys all thought, boy, they're really picky-uni, you know what I mean? Really picky-uni people, you know. Well, they're new at the job. They'll learn. Yeah. No, women don't come from that culture. They're not from the old boy culture. So they toe the line. And I predict, you know, in a few generations, there'll be the old girl culture. Let me somebody off your board and I'll see to it that things go your way. But they haven't learned that yet, so. I just think that's very interesting. And I find a lot of women don't know that, so I thought they should know that. That isn't what we're talking about today anyway, but. Spirituality then is actually a way of being in the world. It's the way you are. It's not spiritual practices. It's not specific techniques. It's not sitting in weird positions and breathing in strange ways. It's not getting your aura read. Your cards told, your runes thrown, your marbles, whatever. New Ageism won't get you enlightened, but it will satisfy your curiosity. It's possible to get involved and then become uninvolved, unscathed, but it's unlikely. Because usually some of it sticks to you, and I advise people to avoid it. Why? Because there's hidden energies, the likes of which you're unaware. People are naive. So the downside of the human condition is really not evil. It's not really even ignorance. It's naivete. It doesn't know any better. And it's attracted by the lure of the unusual, the unique, the odd, the bizarre. Master Bamba Rumba giving you instructions from the other side, etc. God help you. All right. So consciousness then evolves up to the point where integrity now is the rule. Every single newspaper I've read for weeks has had the impact of that. Every single newspaper. Suddenly, something that's been getting away with something for a long, long time is suddenly under the spotlight. It's not a good time to try to pull fast ones in the business world. Yes, what was it yesterday? Yesterday, the president of Smith & Wesson gets knocked out. He really has a criminal record, and he didn't think it was important to tell anybody about that. Of course not. 17 years in prison, that's not important. I agree with him that I agree that he's turned a corner and has become an okay person, and I really don't doubt his integrity nowadays. However, the fact that he didn't reveal it put his company at great risk. He and his company should have known better. If they don't get a background check on executives before they give them big salaries, they need to be examined. So the board of directors is also careless. Because integrity means that you also demand integrity, and it's your style of life. So that's the new lifestyle. Every single day there's been a scandal of dereliction from the level of integrity, which did not happen in the old days. In the old days there was no, there weren't big scandals, much less every day, much less in the headlines, much less celebrities. All right, so today has to do with thought. It has to do with transcending thought. The transcendence of thought is automatic. It's not something you have to do, acquire. It's not a discipline. It comes from a way of contextualizing yourself and contextualizing life so that you become that which is thoughtless. You become that which is thoughtless by virtue of how you contextualize the meaning of your life and the meaning of life altogether. Why does the mind think at all? Why does the mind think at all? Good question. The mind really thinks because of anxiety and because of safety. It really thinks because of survival. I don't know what to do with this thing in the meantime. Anyway, I guess you hold it. Okay, thank you. I never know what the body's doing. It's saying, what do I do with this thing? I don't know what to do with this thing. I'd have to think about it. That's why people around are very useful. You say, what is that for? You say, you hit that and you get a spot. I said, whoa, that's great. You see, you don't really have to know anything at all. Somebody around knows, and as long as somebody knows, it's fine. Once you understand the reality of your own existence, thought comes to a slow intermittency instead of a continuous torture. There's really no necessity to think about anything once you understand who you are and what life is. What does the mind usually do? It thinks about the future and it thinks about the past. It ruminates about the past. And what is the past? Well, if the ego is determining your perception now, it did also in the past. So you can't remember reality in the first place. You can only remember the ego's perceptions, which are all distorted and BS. So there's nothing in the past that's real. Inasmuch as it's not real, there's no point in ruminating and trying to correct it. I wish I'd said that, I wish I hadn't done that. The way to handle the past was well expressed by Bill Wilson, who was the founder of AA, who had an enlightening experience, was transformed a good part of society, and introduced and made us realize the healing power of spiritual concepts. Bill said, there's only one thing you got to do about the past, have a decent regret. Have a decent regret and live differently, end of story. Is that agreeable to everyone? Yeah. A decent regret. And say, if you were God, what would you say to a person? You killed all those people, man, and you slaughtered all them people. Are you sorry? I am. You're forgiven. If he's not sorry, you send him back to light world and let him live it all over again until he's sorry. Then he comes up. You just stay there till you're sorry. Isn't that what it's all about? Once you've realized that you're sorry for what happened in the past and you're going to accept a new way of living, what more is there to life? Well, there's the future. Uh-oh. We just took care of the past. All your memories of the past are distorted perceptions. Because if you went through the past in an enlightened state, you wouldn't remember anything about it. Because nothing happens. Nothing to recall except projections. When you see they're all projections, they lose their lure. What about the future? Well, the future has to do with anxiety. It has to do with planning. It has to do with anticipated disasters and misfortunes. What if we run out of gas on the highway, etc.? What if the world's going to be hit by a meteor? There's always somebody predicting the end of the world. Think of all the fortunes that have been made by various people predicting the end of the world. There's always a new book. And it usually comes out of some mystical thing, like you count the number of whiskers in a seal's mustache, and you multiply that by the stones in the pyramid, and divide that by the number of chapters of books in the Bible. You multiply that by a sacred number, and you come up with 5082. All right, man, we'll give you a new date. The world is coming to an end in 5082. How does that affect your life? Not at all. There's all these books that predict the end of the world in thousands of years. I don't know why anybody wants to buy them. You're not going to be here, so. They said next week it'd be worth reading. In Sedona, we've got all kinds of people like that. There's one guy, and he has a funny way of making his hair and all. And, every 5 or 10 years, he's got a new prediction. So then he always happened to, if I predict the world's going to end in such and such a year and it didn't, man, I just fold up my tent. I just say, oops, and find something else to do. No, these people don't even have that. Yeah, they come back next year, they got a new prediction that they counted the ruins in the Temple of Karnak wrong, and measured it in sacred geometry and came up with 2043. Oh, okay. Then they come back. I always tell these people, if you're going to predict the end of the world, make it far in the future, man, so that when they're all gone, nobody will ever know you're wrong. Those who have a decent regret, a really heartfelt regret for human error. You see, the human is built, he's fallible. Therefore, errors are certain. If you haven't made serious errors in your life, you're a liar. To say you haven't made serious errors in your life is already a serious error. We've all screwed up mightily, and that is supposed to be one style of learning. I wouldn't recommend it myself, but I didn't create the universe, so. So the past is a decent regret, a heartfelt, genuine regret for the limitations of the human ego and the physical body and all that goes with it. And you've only got one sin in the past anyway, that's ignorance. And the ignorance is due to naivete, and therefore, as Christ said, forgive them for they know not what they do, and the Buddha said the same thing. So the one sin of the past from which all human beings suffer is ignorance, not knowing the full truth. This is a condition of all of society and doesn't make you special. Oh Lord, I've sinned. People make a big drama. There's a whole trip about ashes and sackcloth and suffering and self-flagellation and guilt and misery. And these are people that are, that are, bang, looking for God at the bottom of the chart. Shame, guilt, griefs, oh God, how I have sinned. Okay. That gets rid of a little guilt. I mean, I'm not going to put it down. Except after a while you feel guilty that you did that, but that's beside the point. I was looking for God down here, and then I heard a lecture that said he was up here, and that changed my life. Oh. So everything in the past then is washed out. There's no point to think about the past because there's no reality there. If you were in a state of reality, as I said, there wouldn't be any past. All right, so the next thing is fear. Fear has to do with not realizing that you're safe at all times. Well, the brain, the mind will instantly manufacture conditions and take examples from the past to try and justify that fear is a rational condition. That you have to think, you have to think fearfully of the future. So the future then has to do with control, trying to control the future. All this is premised on survival is due to the ego. And as you get more sophisticated, you realize that survival is not a product of the ego, it's a product of the spirit. The mind becomes silent automatically with the realization that you are absolutely safe. And even if you aren't, so what? So you die. Dying is a certainty. So accepting the certainty of death, then what can we do about the future? You can be devoted to all that is sacred. Be devoted to beauty. Be devoted to all that is sacred. You see the beauty as we came here this morning, it was stunning. The only difficulty with beauty is it makes you cry, and you shouldn't be driving. Susie said, "What are you crying about this morning?" I said, "I don't know, it's just the snow. It's just..." When it snows in Sedona, you cry with happiness. Anyway, first time we've had it all year. So, to be aware and to be aligned with, to honor divinity and all of its expressions, to be sensitive to the beauty that exists at every moment in all things. Therefore, the spiritual pathway through this world is only a way of being, and you become that. That's why I'm not crazy about various techniques, breathing and sitting in strange ways and contorting your body and sucking your stomach so it's against your spine and weird things. It's only necessary to just be who you really are. That is a divine state. And one walks through the world on the wings of truth. The divine state reveals itself when you realize the truth of your own existence. So therefore, how you contextualize your life then is how you present yourself to the world, and it's what you are to the world. The universe responds in like. When you are thus to the world is thus to thee. And you walk safely through the hail of bullets, and if one's meant for you, so. And if you come out the other side, then there wasn't one meant for you. So that is the way it goes. So that's complete surrender, is it not? All right, so for the past is eliminated by the realization that a decent regret is all that's necessary. Let's make sure about that. A decent, heartfelt regret does indeed undo the past. Oh Lord, amen. Resist. It does indeed undo the past. In one instant, that's all it takes. So you can stop ruminating and trying to rewrite the past. You're lying in bed. I should have said this. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have bought this stock. I should have bought this stock. I shouldn't have bought that stock. I should have. So the past was a learning program. And what's the point of that learning? The point of that learning is for you to have a decent regret about it and let it go. To stop dragging it around. I don't want to hear other people's chains dragging. They come up, after a lecture, and they want to give me about, oh, I did this, and I did that, and then she died, and I wasn't there, and my mother-in-law was having her gallbladder out, and boy, oh boy, I say. Susie's daughter says, you're the Bill O'Reilly of spirituality. I just say to the lady, cut it out, man. Don't drag me along with your sad story. I don't want to go there. Those are people who, you see, wallow in the past because their ego is sucking the juices out of it. You see the juices the ego gets out of wallowing in the past? Sackcloth and ashes, all the drama. It's drama. Drama. You're also trying to control God and tell him what to do, forgive you, because look how you suffer. That's blackmail. All people try to blackmail God with suffering. You realize how you're trying? That's a control thing, isn't it? God is this awful parent, and if you just suffer and wallow in guilt, then he'll forgive you. You don't have to manipulate God because God is a condition. Non-manipulable, like a giant electrostatic field. All right. That's the past. The future then is surrendering to the will of God completely with no reservation. And that's a way of being in the world, a way of being in the world. And it's letting go, wanting to control the world, control the future. If you have a negative view of yourself, then you expect the worst in the future and you begin to plan for the worst because they're extrapolating, you're projecting out there what you think you are. Don't think what you are at all. Just be what you are and don't think about it. How can you just be what you are? You can do it in one instant. Be willing to accept what I'm saying to you right now with no reservation. Isn't that easy? If I tell you E equals MC squared, I don't want some smartass to get up there and start to argue with the mathematics of it. I'm telling you, E equals MC squared. Get it? Yeah. Geez, right, it's so simple. I mean, everybody can see it. It's just matter. It's just energy, condensed energy. I mean, you don't have to even go to school to figure that one out. Once somebody explains it to you. So we accept things on faith. We accept things on faith. To completely surrender one's will to God, then, means whatever happens in the future, happens in the future. Don't worry about the mind going silent and leaving you stranded. That's everybody. I get letters from like that all the time. I'm meditating and my mind stops, and that scares me, because how will I survive? Well, maybe you won't. I don't know what she wants to survive for. She's all the way home. I mean, why not just be there? What about the kids? Let God worry about the kids. Let the world worry about the kids. Yes, this week one came that way. And we said, let God worry about the kids. If you bliss out, you bliss out. Somebody blisses out, you sit them down, you put a tin cup next to them, and people walk by. Your mother-in-law comes and gets the cups, empties it every hour. Children are okay, don't worry about it. So we let go of wanting to change the past, and we let go of wanting to control the future. When that's done at a profound depth, one realizes that you are safe. Not because it says so in a book, but because you realize that. As I stand here, you don't see any past hanging off of me. Do you see any past anywhere? I don't see any past. One is a karmic product at this moment. That which stands here is where evolution is at this moment. Okay. So the present is the finish of the past. With spiritual realization, which you come by through contemplation, it's really a contemplative matter. As you walk about, you say, who am I to myself anyway? Who am I to the world? What am I to life? What is my relationship to life? You begin to, when you reverence all that is beautiful, when you reverence all that is divine by virtue of its existence, then you walk about in a different state. Out of that state arises a conviction of safety. The mind will start up periodically when it needs to tell you something. Not because it's coming from the mind, but because it's coming from the spirit. If you need to know something, the spirit will see to it that you remember to take your vitamins. The ego doesn't. It takes credit for it. But it's really the spirit acting through your wife that reminds you. Who sees to it that you eat and all those things. She has a big thing about eating, I don't know. Every few days, I suppose. Because people are concerned about the body, and I'm not, if you're not concerned about the body, other people worry about it. So if you need to eat something, somebody will tell you that. So you don't have to think about when will I eat next or what am I going to eat next, because it's all handled. It's all handled by the nature of life. And so I want everybody here to feel profoundly safe. You're safe from your past. Is there anybody here who lacks a decent regret for the past? I'll help them. Anybody? Anybody who doesn't have a decent regret for the past? We just confirmed that that's all you need. You don't have to invoke God's mercy, right? You don't have to invoke the mercy of an electrostatic condenser. When you put a charge, it crackles. When there is no charge, it doesn't crackle. You don't say, oh dear electrostatic condenser, give me that present of thy presence. The past is over. So you only have to look at the future. The future you surrender to God, so you don't have to worry about that. That leaves you in the present, whatever that is. Does anybody have any thoughts about the present?
That's a trick question.
You have to make one up, don't you? You don't really have any thoughts about the present. All right, so if you give up wallowing in the past and trying to rewrite history and make yourself look better, cleaner, brighter, and smarter, and if you don't have to worry about your survival in the future, and nothing's going on in the present, as you can see, then there's nothing for the mind to think about. The mind becomes silent. Actually, the mind doesn't have to become silent. The mind is silent. What are you doing there?
I'm just shading the screen for now.
Shading the screen. Oh. I see what you're doing. I thought you were sending me mysterious signals or something. Don't think about it. Well, you see, when you have to think, all of a sudden a thought comes out. It says, it's a thought of curiosity. What is she doing with that card there? So I don't have to worry that I won't think about things when I should think about things. You understand? You surrender your thoughts to God because they aren't worth anything anyway, other than E equals MC squared, and you don't know what that means anyway. But all I'm saying is we take certain things on faith. We take certain things on faith. That somebody who's been there will tell you how it is, and you just say, oh. The big mistake is to argue with them. Marco Polo went to China, he came back, and I'm sure a lot of people thought he was making up stories, but that was their problem. I've been to China, just the way he said it was. The Chinese are very Chinesey. That's all I can say. Things are, so. Faith and confidence, then, in wisdom. So what we're talking about is faith and confidence in wisdom. And we'll talk about what wisdom is, how it expresses itself in spiritual teachings. Yeah. You know, where were we? We're talking about not thinking, which leaves us in the middle of nowhere, doesn't it? Where do we go from here? How many people are here for the first time? Oh my gracious me, oh my, oh my. Well, then we'll have to hurry up. Okay. On with the slides. We're working on a new book, and well, it's going to be something. Just trying to decide on a title. Wow, how about that? Okay. So the map of consciousness is all over the internet. I don't know how to work the internet, but people do. And they give me all these things. So we're all over the internet, all different languages. So whatever we're talking about seems to have some general recognition of its essential truth and its usefulness. Mankind has never had any means of discerning truth from falsehood. Even now, the capacity to discern truth from falsehood is limited to a small percentage of the population. The kinesiologic technique, which itself calibrates at 600, and therefore is not explicable in logical terms, it is only useful for people whose own consciousness calibrates 200 or over. So that eliminates about 80% of the world, 85% of the world. So, and then the question itself has to be integrous as far as motive. So two people who are integrous ask an integrous question, And the way they get a correct answer is because they're dedicated to truth rather than looking for a positionality or a gain. Huh? Many people use it, don't get the right answers because because of the intention behind it, which is rather glaringly obvious very often. The way to get the correct answer is to say, in the name of the highest truth, in the name of the highest truth, I ask, O Lord, is this or that or the other thing. So then you make a statement, and you ask the person to quickly resist, and as we said before, the acupuncture system is very, very rapid. So if I hold something in mind and press down her arm, it's a flash down. She's strong right for a moment, but if I keep pushing, that moment is over. So some people wait too long. Okay? So when we demonstrate it, you see how quickly we do it. We say, we just want to confirm the validity of this, that what we just said is true. I don't have to tell her what I'm holding in mind. I can say to her, what I'm holding in mind is true. All right, let's do it now. What I'm holding in mind now is true. What I'm holding now in mind is true. What I'm holding now in mind is true, is it? Okay. She doesn't know what I was holding in mind. She doesn't know if I'm holding a hippopotamus, a zebra. No way of knowing. It's quick and easy. Some people are adept at it, others are not. It's like riding a bicycle. Some people are good at it, they get on the first time. It's like riding a horse. I tried riding a horse for years. I got thrown about 20 times. Horses and I didn't get along until just recently. Recently, horses and I kissed and made up. Of course, this horse actually was loving. I said, whoa, a loving horse? One reason I didn't like them, they never seemed to be loving, you know. But this horse was actually affectionate. I said, holy cat. And so we took it, we have a picture of it, anyway. And this horse actually gave me a kiss. And in that instant, horses and myself now have a lovely relationship. I haven't ridden one since. My orthopedist doesn't recommend it. One more fall, doc, and you've had it. Let's go on to number 2. Let's go on to, we're going to quickly run through the slides for those who haven't been here before. Spiritual work, now I'm putting this in my right-hand pocket. You're all witness. This is my thingy. It's like a mudra. It isn't what you do. It isn't some performance. It's the way you are. The way you are. Your life is a presentation to divinity to be the best that you can be at the moment that you are what you are. Yeah? Your life then is like a mudra. Your life is like a sacred gift to the world and to God, that you are being all that you can be at any given moment. Yeah? The sacredness of all of life then allows you to see the sacredness of your own. That commitment to contextualize that that's why you're here, to be all that you can be at any moment, to realize the divinity of all things, to see the beauty of all creation, to leave judgment up to God. Liberates you from thinking this, the disease called thinking this. All right, let's go to the next. This was a contribution from Mr. Selinsky, whose name has been chopped off the bottom. He translated the consciousness levels. You remember I said they had to become logarithmic because the numbers are so huge. Logarithmic, and so we had a logarithmic scale, and we tried to give comparative in microwatts. You know, just because people are used to such things. We're really talking about a nonlinear domain, but to make it more comprehensible, we tried to relate it in comparative figures to like the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, in the things we write and all, people tend to become literal. They tend to miss the forest for the trees. Don't focus on the trees. The things that we're trying to illustrate is so you get the gist of it. The gist of it. All right, so what he did was he translated. He's very good at mathematics. I am not very good at mathematics. I don't like mathematics even. I hate mathematics. Come on. All right, because it's so pedestrian. You're like limited to like trudging through the linear world. I mean, it's yeah. When you're used to living free like a bird in the nonlinear world, it's a drag to have to figure everything out. You know what I mean? Anyway, he correlated the it in microwatts using more advanced mathematics. The answers we got were using kinesiology, which would make any dyed-in-the-wool scientist shudder. That's where I figure out certain things. I say, how much do I owe the government? Kinesiology, and that's the right figure. I've got employees that never give me a charge card, and I say, how much do we owe you? And then we get the right amount, I write them a check, everybody's happy, no problem. All right, so what he found was, when he really, the mathematics are not on here, I don't know what happened to them. They fall off the bottom here, but the mathematics is quite advanced. So he did it, he calibrated them, and you see the levels of consciousness sort of form a, look how they go, from 100 to 200, and then suddenly, so you see them, suddenly at 500 you see it shoot up like this, and then at 600 reaches almost infinity. Okay, we'll go on to the next one. I don't know what that means, but I thought it looked terrific. Here's where most of mankind is in the dark. Here's his consciousness level. Where are we at? 207, did I say? 207. So you see the percentage of mankind over here that is above 207 is actually quite minimal. And the great mass of mankind is behind us in the learning curve. Instead of good and evil, you think in terms of learning curve. So 15% of mankind is above consciousness level 200. Next slide. And Karen in our office made these graphics. You get that the 15% is counterbalancing the 85%. Their creativity, their power, their productivity. This is the power that counterbalances the world, because the power of integrity is far greater than that of non-integrity. Also, now you understand the power of capitalism. And the answer to Karl Marx. This is not exploiting this. This is holding it up. This is holding it up. One brilliant idea creates more capital than all the banks in the world are holding. Thomas Edison, one thought. Think of the giant economic productivity of one brilliant thought. Capital exists in the mind and not in the bank. One brilliant thought, followed up by integrous. The rest of it is just automatic. Huh? So this is the 15% that holds up the 85%. You know? Okay, what's next? We got a new thing here called PowerPoint. It's a mysterious new electronic gadget. We used to flip these transparencies around. I don't see even the transparency flipper anymore. Wow. We're on our own. This is called the PowerPoint thing. And we're going to get into silent mind, you see, you have to understand how the ego works. And one way it works is by duality, and it sees everything as opposites. It doesn't see things as comparisons, it sees them as opposites. You see, so in politics, if people would say, you know, this is the way I see it and the way I would go and why I would go that way, you know, politics would be integrous. Instead, they think, instead of doing that, they just hate this one. Or this one hates this one. That's how I would say, you don't have to hate vanilla because you like chocolate better. You have to just tell people why chocolate is better than vanilla, but you don't have to hate vanilla. All right, so here we have, people think of heat, hot and cold as opposites. So the mind thinks dualistically. It sets up a positionality and then divides everything into dualistic pairs, polarities. This against that. This against that. Not this and that, but this against that. So, actually we see there's only one variable we see with heat. Where's my pointer thing? I got to really get used to working this thing. You see this thing here? All right, there's only one variable. There isn't hot versus cold. There's only heat, the presence of heat and the absence of heat. There's not two opposites of hot and absence of hot. There's no such thing. The kinesiologic response then is like electricity going down a wire. There is no opposite to on. When you turn off electricity, no offness runs down the wire. It's either there or it ain't. It's a presence or the absence of a quality. And here we have desirability. If you desire something, it's precious. If you don't desire it, you think it's awful. Okay. Now, PowerPoint. Oh, this is another example. You don't have a good versus evil. You've got desirability. And the most obvious one to see is light. There's only one quality of light. It's either present or it diminishes and it's absent. The same with truth. Truth either prevails or it becomes muddied and becomes absent. All right. So that takes care of duality. Does that take care of it for everybody? We said in previous lectures that one can realize the real way to become silent is to become the potentiality of that which you are and accept what I tell you, that you're perfectly safe. The past doesn't mean diddly, the future isn't here, and in the present nothing's going on. So there's another way, and that is by reflection, inner reflection. By inner reflection, one will begin to realize that the mind is silent at all times. If the mind were not silent, you wouldn't know that you were thinking anything. Because it's against the background of silence that you think you experience a thought. The mind itself then is the field in which thought occurs. It's the silence, the backdrop of silence. And we'll explain thoughts a little bit later, but thoughts, just prior to a thought is where you'll notice the silence. This silence can be noticed no matter what you're doing. As I'm talking right now, the mind is really in a field of silence, so that I'm listening to what's being said. I haven't the slightest idea. People say, what are you going to talk about? How would I know what I'm going to talk about? Tell us what you're going to talk about. They want 3 paragraphs sent to their church to announce what you're going to talk about. How would I know what they're going to talk about? I can make a presumption, so I send them some wild thing. I don't want to tell them the truth, that I have the slightest idea. I hear it at the same time you do. Sometimes it's funny. I got a kick out of it when it's funny. And sometimes it's a crack up, Just the funniest thought comes out of nowhere, and it just cracks me up. Usually you laugh at your own jokes. They're not my jokes. I don't know where they come from. They crack me up. If they were my joke, they wouldn't crack me up. No, they're not my joke. That's really so funny. At all times, even though you're thinking, or think you're thinking, the mind is actually silent. 98% of the mind is silent even when you think you're thinking. You think it's all your mind that's thinking. No, it's about 1 or 2%. 1.85 to 3.6%. I like how make obsessive compulsives happy. I thought you said 1.8. Oh, no, it's 1.92. Oh. It's an itty bitty part of your mind is what's thinking. It's about this much of your mind here is thinking. The rest of it is entertainment. All right, so if only 1 or 2% of your mind is thinking, then how does it seem to have so much power over you? It doesn't have any power. You give it the power, and the secret, I'll give you the secret of what the power is. It's called hypnosis. 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 I tell you, watch my fingers, watch my fingers, watch my fingers, watch my fingers, watch my fingers. Sleepy, sleepy, sleep. Sleepy, sleep. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Okay. This 1% keeps you seduced. It traps you. It's a lure. It's good to be paranoid about your mind. It's up to no good. So long as it's got you boondoggled, it survives. When it stops having you entranced in its hypnotic condition, lure, it stops. So its days are numbered. The mind knows its days are numbered. The ego knows its days are numbered. Consequently, it's frantic to keep you going with a new worry, a new anxiety, a new guilt. And how does it do it? It ises everything. It ises everything, I call it. And it seduces you through guilt, excitement, promise, lascivious images. That sounds good, lascivious images. Oh. MTV, there you go. When it's got nothing else to do, you'll see your mind will resort to one of the things on the bulletin board. It'll politicize everything. It'll moralize. Isn't that awful? It'll idealize how things should be. It's going to hypothesize and rewrite history. It's going to romanticize things. And one of its favorite entertainments is to criticize. Wasn't that awful? And here's drama. Dramatizes, emotionalizes things. Emotionalizes. People love to get on TV and blubber. They do that, they emotionalize, they dramatize, and they do that by catastrophizing. Catastrophizing. Then you theorize how it should be, and you rationalize, and then you fantasize, infantilize, intellectualize. You mentalize everything, you idealize it, and you glamorize the whole process and say, I'm thinking. Don't bother me, I'm thinking. We glamorize things, exaggerate them because we prize them. We like to victimize and demonize things. So the wise give up ising. The mind keeps going. It's got you hypnotized. So just to know, 98% of your mind is silent. There's only 1 or 2%. It has no power over you except the hypnotic fascination that you project to it. So we glamorize. Alice Bailey's book on glamour is probably the best one out of that whole series, or one of the greatest. And it was described by some spiritual teacher in the celestial realm. the energy of glamour. It doesn't exist in the thing itself, it's something we project onto it. So we glamorize and exaggerate the importance of our mind and make it a wonderful, wonderful thing. Our thoughts are really precious. Precious. Precious thoughts. Okay, let's go on to the next. All right. The mind has different styles, depending on what level of consciousness you're talking about. In a group like this, the Newtonian paradigm is the big barrier. Few people escape to level 500. What do we say? 4%. 4% of the population ever transcend to level 500. 4%, huh? And to level 540, unconditional love, 0.4%. So why is it so few people transcend the barrier of the intellect at 500? As we've said, Einstein calibrated 499, Sir Isaac Newton 499, the great scientific geniuses of all time, 499. Great books of the Western world run around the 460s, around there. So 499. So the intellect now, first of all, brings people up from the bottom. So each level of consciousness then is an improvement over the other. Therefore, there's no point of demonizing it. Because if you don't have enough energy to hate, you're going to lay down there and die. You're going to be in apathy. Because the first rule of the ego is survival. And so the levels of consciousness, then you transcend one. So each one is not bad in itself. Each one is an improvement over the one below it. Unless you can get angry, you're going to be in apathy. Apathy. That's why what's going on in Haiti right now is good. Why? Because angriness and rebellion is an improvement over abject dying of poverty and AIDS and just laying there listlessly without enough energy to even feed yourself, which is what happens at the bottom. So angriness is a way up over something. Then once you get beyond that, you don't need angriness anymore, and you give it up for courage, and you give up courage for valor, and you give up all those things. So each level serves its purpose biologically, you might say, and disappears when you've transcended it. What's happening up there? Holy Catholic, my God. Wow. That's the Newtonian mind expressing itself. Okay, I hear you. Yeah. The Newtonian mind, then, is a tremendous advance. To be able to think logically, to know the rules of logic. You see, rationality is really a dialectic, in which begging the question gets you voted out of the debating team, because that's a violation of the dialectic of logic, the undistributed middle, all those kind of things. So logic has certain rules which are similar to mathematics, and people who fall below intellectual integrity. So intellectual integrity really begins in the 400s, 410, and then around 460, you see that's really intellectual integrity. So I know people prefer to hate George Bush, but I know they hate to hear it, but he does calibrate at 460, whether you like it or not. And so he follows what in his world is logic. It says here, by the oath of office, I should do this, he does that. That's his duty. Other people see their mission differently, but people in the mid-400s consider their world to be logical, scientific, provable, based on evidence, etc. And so the Newtonian paradigm of reality is orderly and logical. It sees things as separate. Spiritually, the downside is of Newtonian is it divides the world into a dualistic, of this causing of that. So long as you think there's a this causing a that, you'll be stuck in duality, and you will think there's a separate ego within yourself, separate from God, a this causing a that. We'll have to transcend that this morning, too. Quantum mechanics is then an advance from the Newtonian paradigm, still within the linear world, in which you see that things are not happening in an orderly fashion, they're unpredictable. What you're dealing really is likelihoods, but not certainties. The Newtonian paradigm promises certainty, and within certain limitations it does bring you to certainty. However, the world we live in is not ruled by Newtonian paradigm. We live in a biologically real earthly world in which subjectivity is actually the most prominent factor. It is subjectivity that gives the Newtonian paradigm its credence. In and of itself it has no credence, but subjectively we value it as highly useful. Quantum mechanics, we go beyond that. We see that in the world of biology, in the world in which we exist, in the subjectivity of our own existence, then things are really quite disorderly, unpredictable. They're not bound, they're not... And the most important thing is the Heisenberg principle, the discovery that things change just by sheer observation. The effect of consciousness, that's where Einstein bucked. Einstein did not want to accept that he said, I prefer to think there's an independent universe out there that exists independently of human consciousness. And so he refuted it. So he stayed at 499. Yeah. All right. So quantum mechanics says that you can't predict the next thing that will happen with certainty. If there's one digit off in the 26th decimal point, and you run that through your computer enough times, bang, you'll get a response that's way out there. As people break their backs high diving, discover 13 jumps, killed on the 14th, you know? Right in Sedona, I've told the story before. The two guys that used to be off whatchamacallit drive there back at the Pizza Hut. And if you had a rattlesnake in your yard, he'd call them up. They would come over for nothing, they would get the rattlesnakes. And they did this for years. And one of the guys got bit 19 times. And the 20th time killed him. 20th time. By 19 rattlesnake bites, and you survive all of them, you presume I must now be immune. No, he wasn't immune. Yep. That's why I tell people to avoid extreme sports unless you're ready to go. You ready to go? Enough high dives, and just as you go off the diving board, you suddenly remember you forgot your mother's, you forgot a Mother's Day card, and that split 1/50th of a second breaks your back. All right. So I'm not too hot on extreme sports because I understand quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics says if you do it often enough, sooner or later it'll get you. And of course, we know the many sports stars who push the envelope and they rack up. It's the fact that they have driven 400 races successfully that the 401th kills them. It's because of the success of the 400 that the 401 kills them. All right, okay, so that's enough of the grim side of quantum mechanics. Let's go to something happier. These are the enlightened, the scale only goes up to 600, and then we calibrated the higher levels. You see, because to many people God is an imagination that somebody thought up somewhere, and it's a big oppressor. The way God is presented, he is an oppressor from many points of presentation. Instead of the liberator, he's the great oppressor, the great feared God of Judgment Day. So we just wanted to calibrate the reality, the verifiability of spiritual realities. So with kinesiology, then we got that the enlightenment happens at 600. And beyond here, the numbers of people are small, but their impact is very often large. The consciousness in mankind goes up to 1,000, and the reason it doesn't go beyond 1,000 is because the human nervous system is not equipped for it. Up to about 700, it's blissful. The Kundalini energy flows, and it's exquisite, exquisite, exquisite. Takes you right out of the world. And from there on up, for some reason, consciousness may continue. Usually it does not. Most people over 600, 50% will leave the body right then. You don't need to stay there like a near-death experience. You don't have to reel in the body. About 50% won't survive at all. They just let it topple over. But if surrounding conditions make sure you eat and all that kind of stuff, the body will survive. Then it stays where it is. Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj, all those are calibrated in 700. So up to about here, the condition is exquisite, exquisite. And then sometimes it continues on up. And then it is not exquisite. It is extraordinarily painful at times, excruciatingly painful. And the Buddha said that. Christ sweat blood. And from there on up, the human nervous system is just not equipped to handle energies over 700. And to go over that level causes a great deal of suffering, inner suffering. Anyway, gradually the nerves do begin to develop greater capacity. They pull in more protein molecules than they actually do, modify, but it takes some years, and the techniques advance. So it's better to not worry about that here in this realm. It's better to go to some heavenly realm and do that. So then just for fun, we asked what's an archangel. We got 50,000 and up. 50,000 and up, yeah. I think when I was in the pits of hell and I asked if there is a God, you know, I prayed to him for help. I was in the pits of hell, eternal hell. The pits of hell are eternal, experientially eternal with no hope. The certainty of no hope is so profound. You will never leave this state ever, and you get whatever means. And then dread takes on a dimension you didn't know it could take. And out of that, the voice within said, if there is a God, I ask him for help. And then out of that, oblivion. And then out of oblivion and nothingness, suddenly the infinite presence. I don't know why I got into that anyway. That heaven and hell are then experiential, while still in a physical body. People worry about it later. It's experiential right here, right now, by virtue of one's own decisions. Well, let's move on to the next one. Oh yes, archangel, yes. So that's the start of that. So I always think some cruising archangel, some archangel cruising by, heard this little flippy thought, oh, if there's a God, I ask him to help me. And he went, and went on. Knocked me out of the world for 30 years. 30 years I never said anything. He was silent within. I left the world and came out here. Yeah. Never mentioned anything till 1995. It just is such a shock. It's just like, the power of it hits you. And the mind is knocked silent. So the silence of the mind is the automatic consequence of a level of consciousness which transcends thinkingness. In that state, there's nothing to think. There's no person to think. There's no somebody to think, because somebodyness is left. There isn't any person to think. There's no this to think about or that. So thinkingness is not part of that state. Through witnessing, then, we begin to see the mind looks at form, it registers form, it recognizes it, and some spiritual teachers say, identify with this here, the watcher, the observer, and the witness. Instead of being part of the content of the mind, merely witness it. We'll move to the next exciting slide. We'll move to the next exciting slide. What?
It's the maps. You want to go to the maps?
Huh?
The maps. You want to go to the maps?
Oh, yeah, we'll do everything today.
Okay.
This is our home team here. Did the maps come up next? Oh, yes. Well, this is quite, we predicted Haiti a couple of years ago. Yeah, we said, here's North America, the calibrated levels of consciousness. I think there's group karma. There's group karma. You belong to a group by virtue of your level of consciousness because you ascribe to that. Then that group comes on the planet, tends to be in certain areas on the planet, does what it does, either improves its karmic potential or makes it worse. Then we tend to come back again in karmic groups. Let's see if that's so. In the name of the highest good, we have a person asks us here, right? There is like group karma, is it? Yeah. What we're seeing right in Haiti right now is like group karma, is it? Yeah. See, all the great tragedies on mankind. Here you got it. Here you got the Western Hemisphere. You see Greenland 345, America, Canada 410, 420, Central America in the 300s. You're not going to get any trouble from the whole Western Hemisphere here. They're in the high 200s. They're all over 200. Right in the middle of it, you got to turn this thing on here. There. We said, wow, like a big boil on your leg. Here's trouble. You got a 55 in the middle of the 300s and the 400s. We said that a year or two ago. 55 then. So this is some karmic group, see, that comes on this way. And they've got to evolve beyond it. What can we do to help Haiti? Well, I think, to try and inspire through beauty, through excellence, through demonstrating compassion, etc. We're going to send troops there. I don't know what our troops are going to do in Haiti, but they're going to go there, I guess. It's always strange. We let Mexicans cross the border, but you don't let Haitians cross the border. I mean, if they're trying to swim to safety, why do we put them back? I don't know. We do that with Cuba. So there's the peculiarities of politics, which I don't understand, and I don't really want to understand them. It's bad enough as it is, Anyway, so we have our preferences and our favorites, and that's human nature. All right, so right in the middle of all these numbers, you got a 55, and they stand out so strongly, that's got to be some kind of a karmic group, And there's certain things about their culture that would make 55, what you would understand why it's 55. Yeah, I've been there, and there's certain things about their culture that would pretty much guarantee that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Exciting trip around the world. We calibrate all the countries in the world, all the continents, and we learn a great deal. Here's Australia at 410, 410. Here you got 405. Here you got India at 355. You've got China at 305. China is evolving. China is really coming out of the Marxian collapse and Maoism, the collective farms. The downside of Karl Marx calibrated at 130. So the downside of Marxism is starvation and revolution and disaster. And in the great books of the Western world, Marx stands out. They're all in the 400s, and Marx is there at 130. So if by the fruits you shall know them, that doesn't say too much for Marxism as a lifestyle. Anyway, we see that China is evolving. They have increasing property rights, civil rights, etc. Religion and spirituality is still not welcome there because it's sort of a threat to the strict secularism. To get the book Power versus Force published in China, I was told you got to clean God out of the whole thing and divinity, and just expressed it as energy, consciousness, energy. Replace God with higher energy, and you can get published in China. As long as you got God in there, so they've got a way of censoring things. So, Yeah, but still, China's come up a long way. Now it has a new premier. There was a group we were at in California some years ago, of course, the Miracles group, and we decided the group would take on China as a group project. Since then, China has come up, so I want to thank anybody who's here from California for that Miracles group. If it wasn't for you folks, China would still be down in below 200. So the new premier of China is moving ahead. So you get very interesting theory. Here you have Mongolia up here, great expanses. Here's where the trouble is. We said North Africa. North Africa is where the trouble is. Again, probably a large karmic group. You've got two countries, one at 190 and one at 192, constantly warring at each other, but they've been doing that for a couple of thousand years. So I don't know if they're going to decide to stop or not. But anyway, they get too much out of it, The whole country is built on the structure of strife and conflict and hatred. And we blow up a busload of children, then they bomb our school, then we throw rocks at their police, then they send a rocket. So that's a whole lifestyle, isn't it? A whole lifestyle. If they wanted to stop it, they would. People tell you one thing, but if that was so, it would be so. So it's not so. And we get that it's what they calibrate at 190 and 185, which is below the level of integrity. So whatever they say, it's not so. It serves that positionality. So it's very interesting to then, you see here's Uganda or places, I don't know where the UN is, where all these things are happening. And people want to turn our country over at 421 to the UN, which calibrates about 195. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. I mean, where are they with Haiti? Where are they with Uganda? I mean, I don't know what they do, They pass out parcels of food. So they're like an extension to me of the Red Cross, and they do a lot of good, but I wouldn't turn over the rule of our country over to them. All right, so here you got Africa, and here you got Uganda. You see you're around 50 or so. The slaughtering of people there. So you see the calibrated levels then show a distribution somehow. Now, Europe has become secularized. Where is Europe here? What happened to Europe? I don't know where I want it. 300 is up in here. All right, see, America, the Constitution of the United States calibrates around 700, the highest of any country in the world. The government itself calibrates extremely high. For all of our criticism of it, you can criticize it, but it's a matter of fact. If you calibrate, it's the highest in the world. It is integrous by intent. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. Doesn't mean that it's saintly. It's not saintly. A government is not supposed to be saintly. It's supposed to protect its people. All right, so here we have that. What happens with non-integrity then is things go downhill, but they only go downhill a little bit. If you stop at secularism, then you're in usually the high 200s or 300s. That means, it doesn't mean you're not responsible. It's just that you eliminate God from the equation. You eliminate God from the equation, which is from a certain viewpoint is fine with me. I don't care if they do it. God doesn't care about it, so whatever they want to do. All right, we'll move on to the next country. So here's the Western Hemisphere again. I don't know why it recurred. Let's go on. We already saw the Western Hemisphere. Here's the other hemisphere. Well, because I thought these are easier to read. The other was too full of data. You see, New Zealand and Australia would be good places to live, wouldn't they? Anything that's 400, 355, all these higher calibrations would be, if you want to retire, I would retire to a higher calibration. Here's where it's 40, it's not a good place to retire. The other people retired there are the what do you call those things? Gorillas, yeah. And the gorillas calibrate higher than the people there. I would rather sit for breakfast with a mountain gorilla than the people who work there. All right, we'll move on to the next. So we can't say anything about it except that if we study the world, this is what we find. And North Africa, we spend a little extra time on because, you know, it's so much in the news, Iraq and all such like. And a couple of the countries I was talking about, you see here at the top, and you can see they're not devoted to peace, and therefore all this conversation about it is conversation. And Iraq as a country was also far away from peace. Syria has come up since we did this map. If you recalibrate Syria, you'll see it came up. And Gaddafi has somehow gotten religion all of a sudden, for which we're all quite happy, to tell you the truth. Time magazine came out, so let's go to the next one. In the trouble zones, we're in North Africa, where we've experienced them. So we ask now, what is the truth? You see, because the human mind can't tell truth from falsehood. The human mind is impressionable. The masters of rhetoric, you know, rhetoric, political persuasiveness, has been a formal study, well, in the year 350 BC. So for the book I'm doing now, I'm very sharp on it. I had to reread Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates, and the refutation of the argument, the philosophic position of the sophist, and what could be saved from all of that would be some rhetoric. Rhetoric, the good side of rhetoric, is that you present truth in a way that is palatable to the audience. Now, truth is not always palatable to the audience. In fact, truth is often the last thing people want to hear. So I warn people, if you're interested in truth, then you have to pull in positionalities. The name of the new book, I'm forgetting what it is already. It's going to be Truth versus Fallacy. Truth versus Fallacy. You decide, something like that. Your choice, truth versus fallacy. What happened to the war? Oh, okay. We were doing World War II. So you can take all the events of any major thing in history. They say if you haven't learned from history, you have to repeat it. And we see mankind has repeated it over and over again. So what is the lesson that we should have learned so that this doesn't keep repeating itself? We learned that peace is the automatic consequence of truth, and war is the automatic consequence of falsity. It's as simple as that. Where truth prevails, peace prevails, because it's an automatic consequence of truth. So peace is not something you can force on people, or we'll kill you. Let's see. Because the Iraqi war is still somewhat emotionalized in people's minds, we should probably stay away from it. And what we do is we'll go back to my earlier life and see how did people calibrate and how did a war, the greatest war in history, that killed more people than any other war, how could such a thing happen, you know? So we put the calibrations, we just calibrated people, and you see very interesting things. You see Winston Churchill at 5'10". Now, Winston Churchill, when he said in England before World War II that war is coming and you'd better get yourself ready for it, they thought he was a warmonger, so they threw him out and they brought in a gentleman who said he was going to bring peace in our times. Peace in our times. And that was Neville Chamberlain. So Churchill was a realist. He says, yeah, I don't like the idea of it, but you know, frankly, folks, Hitler's going to take over and we'd better be prepared. He was thrown out as a warmonger, and the pacifists who calibrated at 145, as exempted by Neville Chamberlain at 185, became friendly with Hitler. Went over and shook his hand, and they signed a peace treaty. They signed a peace treaty. Anybody who signs a peace treaty with somebody who calibrates, let's see. By the end of the war, Adolf Hitler calibrated about 145. So here you got somebody who's in denial at 185, full of sophistry, all about peace and all that stuff, signing a contract with this guy here. And so you've got, what you've got is wishful thinking naivete. Oh, if we're just nice to them, they'll be nice to us. Saddam. He'll be nice to us. He won't torture people to death so slowly. Right. Oh, so delusion. So that when the chips fell then, the war started and they had to pull Winston out. Winston was at 5'10". Wow. Well, we did, what is the energy of, when we spoke at Oxford, we stopped off in Scotland and did the Scottish Tattoo, which is a military musical extravaganza put on in front of the palace once a year. And we heard 100 bagpipes playing at once, the Black Watch. You imagine 100 pipers walking across. The sound of it just made the hair on the back of your head stand right up. And we said, what is magical? There's something different about the sound of bagpipes that has nothing to do with music. No. The most dreaded sound in the history of warfare is the sound of another army coming towards you with the background of the sound of bagpipes. More scary than the screams of the Viking warriors, more terrifying than any. Because there's an energy field at 505. 505. It's not hatred. 505, you better make sure you've signed your will. 505 is death. 505, you see, is not just courage. So the average warrior transcends fear. He walks into the hail of bullets. We've all walked into a hail of bullets, knowing, because that's how you get over 200. The woman in childbirth does the same thing. She knows she's risking her life. Most women in history died in childbirth, so by the act of heroism. For others, for the sacredness of life, she puts her life on the line. And frankly, she used to lose it often. She lost it often. In the family Bible I have at home, the man was often married 3 or 4 times, and many of the children died. So the man goes over 200 when he's willing to face death for some higher principle: honor, love of country, to defend the homeland. 505 is something else. 505 is valor. Valor calibrates 505. In valor, you're not trying to prove anything. You don't have to prove that you're not subject to fear anymore. You proved that long ago at calibration 11200. Now, 505 is being what you are in the face of all that is. The courage to be exactly who you are. It's extremely powerful. So you see, Winston at 5'10" was the spiritual strength of the bulldog. The bulldog. Roosevelt very close to him at 500. President Truman, God bless him, he inherited a terrible problem. He had to decide about the nuclear bomb. Nobody envied him, and that involves triage. Are you going to kill 200,000 to save the life of 6 or 7 million or not? Nobody likes to be faced with triage. Every physician faces it. I've faced it many a time. The life of the mother, the life of the child. So triage then was the problem that Truman faced, and happily he was at 495, which nobody would have predicted. I remember my father's description of Truman as being a haberdasher from someplace. Oh, God help us, he says. A haberdasher from Missouri or whatever. God help us. Well, when called upon, the energy came up in Truman, and he did the impossible. None of us would want his decision. If he said no, 7 million people would have died. 7 million because you had the moral cowardice not to say yes. If you say yes, you're going to be vilified in history as having killed 200,000 people. So you're either going to be attacked one way or the other. So should it be for the death of 200,000 or the death of 7 million? Because the estimated death rate, if we invaded Japan, was at least 7 million. Yeah. So then we have MacArthur and all these people. We can see Werner von Braun, Heisenberg, the U.S. military. The concept of triage itself is not well understood in America. It's understood very well in medicine. Los Alamos, you can see what the intention of all these people were. Interesting, you see the kamikaze pilot was already an integrous warrior. So was the Luftwaffe. Integrous warrior. They didn't do it to prove anything, they did it out of duty. Hirohito's right on the edge at 200, Tojo's at 205, and Yamamoto had a certain amount of wisdom because right from the beginning he said, well, we're going to lose this war. Yamamoto was not popular because he said we're going to lose. He saw that right from the beginning. We've awakened the sleeping giant. Now let's see what else was going on here. You see Oppenheimer, you know, then there were double agents at Los Alamos. You can look at pictures of people and calibrate and tell who's going to be the double agent because their consciousness is out. So they can disguise their appearance and what they do and what they say, but they cannot disguise their level of consciousness. So if you want people to work on a secret project that puts all of mankind at risk, you better calibrate their level of consciousness. Because a lot of them are going to sell out, and a certain number of them do. The Cambridge Five sold out. Those were the intellectuals coming out of England. The traders all calibrated 40 or 50. You see, the League of Nations wasn't doing much better than the current, what do they call it, UN thing. The League of Nations didn't do anything to stop World War II any more than the UN's doing much of anything now. Pacifism, the attack on Pearl Harbor. Joseph Goebbels is very interesting because we learn from history. What Goebbels exploited was the naivete of the human mind. He knew people can't tell truth from falsehood. And if you repeat falsehood often enough, people will believe it. So that's the position then that the human ego gets into. Because it has a warped view, it repeats it many times and then becomes conditioned. We see the London Blitz, Dr. Mengele, the Rosenbergs. People still worry about the Rosenbergs. And Lord Haw-Haw, I always got a kick out of calibrating him, was 50. Lord Haw-Haw, I forget his real name, but he was a defector that used to be on radio with pro-Nazi propaganda. Okay, so that's World War II. You see, if you do all the famous wars in history, you learn incredibly important things. What's the next one?
We're going to break.
Break what? We're going to take a break.